Now while you're watching this video, please remember to like, share this video, subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon so that you can receive notifications of future videos. Thank you.
Welcome to Biblios, the space where we think about biblical thinking. Today we'll be looking at Adventist approaches to diet.
Once again, we have Dr. George Knight with us. Thank you, Dr. Knight, for being here.
Saturday. We didn't keep it from even to even. It wasn't until the late 50s that we got that figured out. We didn't have tithing figured out until the late 70s. Our theology and our understanding of lifestyle continued to develop across time. So I used to teach a course called The Development of Seventh-day Adventist Theology. I think you said you used my book as a textbook.
Yeah.
A Search for Identity.
Yeah.
It goes through the stages of the development of Adventist theology and the different focal points that we reached. Our theology had a developmental course, and the same with our lifestyle, and the same with our organizational understanding. And we're still in the process of understanding some of those things.
Some people might be uncomfortable with the idea that the position changed. How do we account for that? Because surely when you open Leviticus 11, it seems quite clear that, some things are to be eaten, some things are not to be eaten.
Well, there are other passages. Try Mark 7. Jesus said all things are clean.
Yeah.
But you've got to recognize, for the Jew, it was not a health issue. It was ceremonially unclean. Okay? When Antiochus Epiphanes IV wanted to desecrate the temple, what did he sacrifice on the altar?
A pig.
A hog! It was ceremonially unclean. For the Jews, Jesus never said all food has been declared healthy, but all food has been declared clean, because there are no ceremonial differences anymore. It just so happens that most of those things which were unclean were also unhealthy. The Adventist focus is on unhealthiness, not cleanliness. There's good reasons, and James White picked out Acts 10, but if you read Acts 10, Jesus says, I have declared all men.
Well, hello there, welcome back to my channel, guys. Yes, today I have for you yet again another exciting video, and as you can see, the title suggests how Jesus abolished the dietary laws. Right, guys? Peter's vision. Now, this video would have summed up everything that I have been teaching on where dietary laws and so forth is concerned. It is rather a much simpler subject to deal with in comparison to the Sabbath, right? Of Colossians 2 verse 16, the things that it is said are done away with, foods and so forth, and Sabbath among all of them. The number one issue is the Sabbath, and the dietary laws follow second. So dietary laws is a simpler subject to deal with, while the Sabbath swallows up all of them by far. The amount of videos I end up have to put out because of Sabbath, and I'm still not through yet. Right, guys? But this video now should sum up the whole thing in a most beautiful and clear manner that you shouldn't be able to second guess whether we are under the dietary laws or not. Most of you know the vision of Peter that comes from Acts chapter 10. I am not going to read out all of it because you all know it too well. I'm just going to take selected verses from Acts chapter 10. In Acts chapter 10, from verse 9 onwards, it tells you how Peter, while he was on a journey, he fell into a trance, right? And he saw the heaven open and a vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet, knit at the four corners and let down to the earth. Verse 12, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts and creeping things and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Lord. Not so, Lord. This is Jesus he's speaking to, Not so, Lord, for I have not eaten anything that is common or unclean. And the voice spake unto him again the second time, What God has cleansed, call not thou common. Right? Now, the Bible tells you that Peter never understood the vision at first. It is when he actually came in contact with Cornelius, right? This was how he actually got to understand the vision. Right, I'm going to tell you the particular verse. Verse 28, it says, and he said, that is Peter, ye know how that it is unlawful. It is an unlawful thing for a man that is a Jew to keep company or come unto one of another nation. But God had showed me that I should not call any man common or unclean. Therefore I came unto you without gainsaying. As soon as I was sent for, I asked therefore for what intent ye have sent for me. Right? So this is when he's coming in contact with Cornelius, because if it weren't for this vision, he would have never, if it weren't for the vision and the spirit, as the Bible tell you, if it weren't for the vision, right, and the spirit giving him a charge, you find that later down in the verses before this, Peter would have never even looked to be having a conversation with Cornelius. Why? Because Cornelius is a Gentile. He's considered as a Gentile. And Gentiles in the sight of Jews consider Gentiles to be unclean. And so this is why Jesus said to Peter that what God has cleansed, he shouldn't call common or unclean. In verse 34, Peter opened it, it says that then Peter opened his mouth and said, of a truth, I perceive that God is no respecter of persons, but in every nation he that feareth him and worketh righteousness is accepted with him. Right? So this is what the vision was actually communicating, that God is no respecter of person. No man is unclean in his sight. Just as how the Jews aren't unclean, right, is the same way how Gentiles aren't unclean either. Right? Now, here's something that I want to point out to you. Right? Jesus gave an illustration in order to communicate the point that no man is common or unclean. Now I'm going to read something for you. Right? A link that I have that talks about illustration writing. And it says that to illustrate means to show or demonstrate something clearly. An effective illustration essay clearly demonstrates and supports a point through the use of evidence. So, in order for the illustration essay to be effective, you must demonstrate or support a point through using evidence. So, Jesus was giving an illustration, and as a matter of fact, the prophet Ellen White agrees so far that Jesus was giving an illustration. I'm going to show you what Ellen White basically has to say, right? And what Ellen White has to say about Cornelius. He says, immediately after this interview with Cornelius, Ellen White here, the angel went to Peter, who, very weary and hungry from journeying, was praying upon the housetop. While praying, he was shown a vision and saw heaven open and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the four corners and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of four-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Peter, rise, kill and eat. But Peter said, no, not so, Lord, for I have not eaten anything that is common or unclean. And the voice spake a second time to him, saying, what God has cleansed, call not thou common. This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. Here we may perceive the workings of God's plan to set the machinery in motion, whereby his will may be done on earth as it is done in heaven. Peter had not yet preached the gospel to the Gentiles. Many of them had been interested listeners to the truth which he taught, but the middle wall of partition which the death of Christ had broken down, she get this part right, still existed in the minds of the apostles and excluded the Gentiles from the privilege of the gospel. The Greek Jews had received the labors of the apostles, and many of them had responded to those efforts by embracing the faith of Jesus, but the conversion of Cornelius was to be the first one of importance among the Gentiles. By the vision of the sheet and its content, let down from heaven, Peter was to be divested of his settled prejudices against the Gentiles, to understand that through Christ, heathen nations were made partakers of blessings and privilege of the Jews, and were to be thus benefited equally with them. Some have urged that this vision was to signify that God had removed the prohibitions from the use of the flesh of animals, which he had formerly pronounced unclean, and that therefore swine's flesh was fit for food. This was a very narrow and altogether erroneous interpretation, and is plainly contradicted in the scriptural account of the vision and its consequences. Now I'm going to post the full quote in the comment section. I'm going to post the rest in the comment section, right? Now, while Ellen White saying this is a narrow interpretation, she gives no refutation, for it, because there is none. There is absolutely no way that Ellen White can actually refute this. And furthermore, we Christians don't say swine flesh was now fit for food. We don't say that. We say it's not unclean, right? Whether you want to think it's unfit or not, that is your business. The point is, it is not unclean. Right, it is not unclean. Now, I would have stated before in my previous video that if prepared properly, one can consume it and it won't have any harm to them. Many persons who die, the cause of death is not through eating pork, and many persons live a long life while feeding on pork, while pork being a daily part of their diet. Right, where the point is not whether it's fit or unfit for food, the point is whether it is clean or unclean. Right, and she's saying that this is not true, that God is prohibiting remove prohibition of foods, but she gives no refutation to basically stand on this, because there is none. Why would Jesus be giving an illustration, right? I just read to you what an effective essay is. By use of evidence and so forth, an effective illustration essay clearly demonstrates and supports a point through the use of evidence. Now, if according to her, right, if according to Ellen White, that Jesus was giving an illustration, right? Jesus was giving an illustration here, It's in actually telling Peter that these beasts are not clean, but men, Gentiles, they are cleansed. So what God cleansed, don't call it common. Don't call it unclean. What would be the point of showing him beasts that are not cleansed, that are not clean, right? Cleansed, in order to communicate the point that Gentiles are now cleansed. That would be a poor illustration. When you're giving an illustration, you use evidence, something that is true. You understand, in order to communicate the point. I can't exhaust this any further. Right, so let me move on. Now, J. Gills have a number of things to basically say, right? Where food and so forth is concerned. I'm not even going to bother to read J. Gill's commentary. I'm going to put it in the comment section for you to see this. I'm not going to read it because I want to keep this video as short as possible. But you'll see that J. Gills actually agrees with what I am saying here. And he pointed out Genesis 9 as well, when God said that every living creature, right, shall be food for Noah. And he pointed out the fact that the Jews, right, they themselves had it that these foods that are now unclean will be cleansed in the time of the Messiah, right, as they were in the times of Noah. Right, you would have seen me put that part on the screen for you guys to see it. Right, that is just a part of the full thing that I'm showing. The rest will be in the comment section. Right, guys, so just as how those foods were clean in the time of Noah for food, so now in our time it have been restored, right, to its clean status as it was in the days of Noah. Right, now the last thing that I'm going to say, I remember listening a video, right, from Nefaniti, and I think the other guy name is Lemon. I forgot his full name, but they are SD apologists, right? I happened to catch one of them on Zoom and Facebook, And I realized that these guys actually developed a new argument to counter our New Testament teaching of all foods being clean. What they were saying about Genesis 9 verse 3 is that every don't mean every, and they're basically giving us examples when the Bible says every, right? And it don't literally means every. Now, while that is true, every in that text literally means every, and here is why. The fact that it gave a comparison with plants and say, even as the green herb, I have given you all things, right? If it is that they were given all things, right, where the green herb is concerned, right, why give that comparison and say, just as I gave you all things with the green herb, it is the same way you can eat some things? Would that make any sense? That wouldn't make any sense if it only mean some foods you can eat, right? And Ellen White, I'm going to post in the comment section, I'll put it on the screen, where Ellen White twists Genesis 9 verse 3. She twists Genesis 9 verse 3, right, and said that it don't mean every, right? It means that clean foods they are to eat. Why would God say, eat some foods, some of these foods you can eat, even as I gave you all green plants to eat? Would that make any sense? Listen, I haven't gone any further than CXC English, and I have a 2 in the Caribbean examination, right, in CXC English. I haven't gone further, right, with English, but so I'm not going to say I'm the brightest person where English is concerned, but I would say that a grade 2 in English give me sufficient sense where English language is concerned, so I can see that based on the structure, the grammar and everything, this would make absolutely no sense whatsoever in saying you can eat some of these things just as I gave you everything to eat. Would that make any sense? It can only make sense and say you can eat all of this just as I gave you all of that to eat. That is the only way it would make any sense, guys. We're talking about English here, grammar, and you know the whole works. Right, guys? So if all foods were clean in the days of Noah, you shouldn't consider it a hard thing. Seventh-day Adventists and Old Covenant believers, that all foods are clean in the New Testament. The point of giving these distinctions about clean and unclean, just as in Acts 10, it was to communicate a point that God is going to make a distinction, right, between the holy and the unholy, his people and Gentiles who were formerly unholy, right? So that was the point of making distinction between beasts, clean and unclean. The clean represents the Jews and the unclean represented the Gentiles. This is the point of the vision, right? This is what it was communicating, the meaning of the vision. But just as how God made those unclean beasts clean, it is in the same way Gentiles have now been made clean. And so this is the point of the vision. That was the whole idea of God making distinction between beasts. It was for the future, you understand, to show God's plan of salvation, then, so to speak, how he's going to graft in the Gentiles. How he's going to graft in the Gentiles. That what God was communicating, the plan of salvation, in making distinction between beasts, one set clean and one set unclean. Because the New Testament, you know, the purpose of the New Testament is to explain the whole, and this is the explanation, right, of unclean and clean beasts. So now I end this video, guys, by stating again to you that all foods have been made clean by Jesus Christ. Just as how Jesus showed this, right, to Peter, he showed this very same thing to Paul as well. And Paul said in Romans 14, I know and am persuaded by the Lord Jesus that there is nothing unclean in and of itself. But if you consider anyone who consider anything unclean, to him it is unclean. I can't say anything more. All foods are now clean, but of course, all foods are not. All foods are not. All foods are clean, but not all foods are healthy. right? You would have seen me posted a clip early in this video with Samuel Bakioki, their top scholar. Right? He's basically saying the same thing as what I am saying, and he ended on Acts chapter 10. Right? I just build up from Acts chapter 10 now. I suppose that if I should show you the full video, he would be saying the same thing about Acts chapter 10 as what I presented to you guys. So with that being said, I end this video. You know what to do now. If you enjoy this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Bye bye now.